Whooping cough is caused by Bordetella pertussis. There's been a massive rise of this recently, probably because of anti-vaxxers and the fact that children aren't getting vaccinated against it as much as they were before. It can be fatal in children under the age of 6 months, and that's why it's so important that we have a vaccination program against it. Children over the age of 6 months can be affected by it quite severely, but it's less likely to be fatal. And then adults with it are usually fine. They just have ongoing symptoms for a long time. So whooping cough has got 3 phases to it. The first is very much like any other cough, cold, runny nose, flu, because it has all of those same symptoms. And it's actually very difficult to differentiate between whooping cough and a cold or the flu at that point, because they all present in a very similar way. But once you enter the second stage of the illness, that's usually when whooping cough becomes apparent, because that's when you start having these really nasty bouts of coughing. So these coughing fits with this inspiratory whoop at the end of it or in between those coughs. So it's this sound because you're really gasping to get air into your lungs. It can also have vomiting after these coughing fits. But that first stage of the illness can last 2 to 3 weeks. And then the second stage, which is usually when whooping cough gets diagnosed, can last for 3 to 4 months. Now, to treat whooping cough, once you get into that second stage, there's not a great deal that we can do. The treatment is generally supportive. Whereas if you're in the first phase of the illness, antibiotics can help, but there's no guarantee that the antibiotics are going to either stop you going into the second stage or even reduce the severity of the second stage. And then there's a third phase of the illness, which is where those fits of coughing reduce in severity and reduce in frequency, but that can still last for another month or so. Unfortunately, it's just a bit of a waiting game. If you start feeling unwell with whooping cough, go and see a doctor, because there are medicines that we can prescribe that are called antitussive medication. For example, like codeine can help to suppress the cough reflex, but there's no actual active treatment for it unless you're within the first 2 to 3 weeks of the illness and it's obvious that it's pertussis, in which case we might give you some antibiotics. But if you have any concerns, please go and see a doctor. This video is not medical advice.